Salacious History discusses sex, romance, and many other topics that are intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Salacious History, the podcast that explores moments in history that were shaped by sex, romance, and people who were generally down to clown. I'm your host, Sarah Duncan. On this episode, we will explore the life and early career of groundbreaking sexologist Dr. Alfred Kinsey. Some hail him as the father of the sexual revolution, while others credit him for the so-called moral decay that plagued American society in the later 20th century. As we will learn over the next 2 episodes, controversy still surrounds his findings and methods over 60 years after they were originally published. Alright, here we go. Alfred Charles Kinsey was born on June 23, 1894 in Hoboken, New Jersey. He was the oldest of 3 children born to Alfred S. Kinsey and Sarah Charles Kinsey. His father was a professor at the Kinsey Institute of Technology and was a very strict and religious man. Both of Kinsey's parents were devout Christians, and his father had a reputation for being one of the most devout members of the local Methodist Church. Mr. Kinsey imposed strict rules on Alfred and his siblings, including reserving Sundays for prayer. Kinsey suffered from several medical conditions as a child, including rickets. Rickets is a skeletal disorder that can lead to the softening and weakening of the bones in children, usually because of an extreme and prolonged vitamin D deficiency. Sadly, Kinsey's parents were not able to afford sufficient care for him. This condition left young Alfred Kinsey with a permanent curvature in his spine. Kinsey was interested in nature and the great outdoors from a very early age. He participated in the Boy Scouts, and in 1913 he became one of the first Eagle Scouts. Pretty cool! It's important to point out, for reasons that will become clear later in this series, that Alfred Kinsey was bisexual. From an early age, he would hurt himself for having homoerotic thoughts and urges, including punishing himself during masturbation by running a toothbrush up his urethra. Ow, 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 ow. Ow, 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 ow. This early convolution of sex, guilt, pleasure, and pain contributed to Kinsey having masochistic tendencies later in life. Most sources on Alfred Kinsey report that he excelled academically during high school and beyond. He was also a very talented piano player and even considered becoming a concert pianist for a time. He eventually decided that he would rather pursue science instead. As a teenager, he developed a deep interest in biology, botany, and zoology. He desired to pursue these interests by studying botany in college, but his father demanded that he study engineering instead. Obeying his father's wishes, Kinsey enrolled in the engineering program at the Kinsey Institute of Technology. After the end of his second year, Kinsey left SIT after showing no interest in or talent for engineering. Much to his father's chagrin, Kinsey enrolled at the Bowdoin College in Maine in the fall of 1914, where he studied entomology. He was elected to the Phi Beta Kappa Honor Society in 1916 and later graduated magna cum laude with degrees in biology and psychology. Kinsey's father refused to attend the graduation ceremony, making it painfully clear that he did not support his son's choice of career and studies. Kinsey continued his studies at Harvard University, where he studied biology under entomology expert William Morton Wheeler. Kinsey's thesis research focused on gall wasps. As a part of his research, he did extensive traveling and collecting of wasp specimens. Kinsey analyzed hundreds of thousands of gall wasps, taking 26 detailed measurements of each specimen. His methodology proved to be an important contribution to entomology as a science. Kinsey earned his Doctor of Science degree in 1919, and in 1920 he was appointed as an assistant professor at Indiana University. Alfred Kinsey was still a virgin when he began his career at Indiana University. In 1920, he met a bright and beautiful undergraduate named Clara Macmillan at a zoology department picnic. The two began seeing each other, and they married in June of 1921. True to form, Kinsey's father did not attend the couple's wedding ceremony. Alfred and Clara would go on to have 4 children together. Clara and Alfred originally had a difficult time consummating their marriage. Their first attempts at intercourse were very painful for Clara, which turned out to be due to having a very tight hymen. The pain of sex became so unbearable that she eventually underwent minor surgery to correct the problem. After the surgery, the couple was finally able to indulge in unbridled sexual pleasure with each other. Alfred and Clara had an open marriage. Though they enjoyed sex with each other, they both sought sexual relationships with other men. I had a difficult time nailing down whether their open marriage began before or after Kinsey's research on sex began, but the two appear to have been very comfortable with their sexual arrangement. Despite their marriage being quite progressive compared to the conservative standards of the time, Kinsey presented himself to the world as a scientist and a conventional husband and father. Kinsey had pretty much shed all religious ideals and associations by the early 1920s, and he turned to science to help him make sense of the world. In 1926, he published a biology textbook entitled An Introduction to Biology. Really got creative with that one. The significant thing about this textbook was that it unified the fields of zoology and botany, which had previously been treated as separate from each other. In 1929, Kinsey was promoted to full professorship, and in the 1930s he published 2 more works, the gall wasp genus Cynips, a study of the origin of the species, and the origin of higher categories in Cynips. Despite his promotion and the publication of his research, Kinsey was becoming disillusioned with his career by the end of the 1930s. Little did he know that the defining phase of his academic career was yet to come.